Yeah, this is long overdue. I've wanted to have you on the show since we did our tying night together for members. And that would have been
Cool.
what,
Yeah.
over a year ago.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. I can't remember, but yeah, it's been a second for sure.
Yeah. Well, I had questions for you then beyond just your fly
Yeah,
tying, but I thought we would do it
for
here.
sure.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll get started. Where are you right now? You're in the shop?
Yeah. So this is the shop. We have a soundproof room here. I'll turn the computer around. So we do podcast on that table. My desk is set up here at work too. So all my fly tying happens here. But we have this cool room upstairs where we can shut the door and get away from all the interruptions and noise. So here we are.
Here we are. All right. Well, I'll come back to the shop
Yeah.
after. We're going to start from the very beginning. So, where were you born and
Yeah.
raised?
So I'm from Vernal, Utah. It's a town. When I lived there, it was about 30,000 in northeastern Utah, about an hour from Wyoming and an hour from Colorado. So right in that little corner.
Do you do a lot of small creek fishing? I've only fished in Utah a little bit, and I remember it being all quite small.
Yeah, I mean, for compared to like some of the bigger waters that are around, a lot of the country would just call our rivers creeks, right?
Right.
And so I didn't really fly fish until I moved to Salt Lake City, though. When I met my wife, when I met my father-in-law, he was the one who put a fly rod in my hands. But so I've gone back to where I grew up and I fly fish, but I didn't do it growing up at all, even though it's a great place to do it. So
So, what did you grow up doing? What was your thing when you were younger?
I played soccer, so I was all about sports. Yeah, I played goalkeeper, so my life lived and died around soccer. So if I couldn't play soccer, it was bad, and then by the time I got to about 25, I had to quit playing soccer so I could fish. So, but it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Okay. And then you met your wife, how?
We used to work together. So I was on a Spanish speaking phone hotline and she worked on another team and she kept coming over and trying to annoy me. So I got to say nice things about my wife because she's going to listen too. But no, she's awesome. We've been married for almost 26 years now. And I finally fished with her in Argentina this spring and she caught a 20-inch brown on a dry fly. But yeah, everybody loves hanging out with my wife. I'm just kind of along for the ride. But yeah, we worked together. Um, and then once we got married, we're like, we shouldn't work together anymore. So I took off and anyway, that's how we met.
Okay, so then the fly fishing side of things, she says what? My dad fly fishes. He's going to take you for a test. Here's a rod, go.
No, like we're just chatting with him. He grew up where I did, and so we had a lot to talk about. And he knew that I like to fish. I like to bass fish, and so he put a fly rod in my hands, and he said, "Hey, go out in the backyard and check it out." And that's pretty much the end of it, right? It wasn't like you better catch a fish or you can't marry my daughter. I tried to do that to my son-in-law, and it didn't work. But
Yeah.
anyway, like that's where it all started. When we were all, the guys in the call center, we would tie flies there at work, but we had no idea what we were doing, right? So a guy brought his grandpa's fly tying kit. We'd tie a fly or two, but then we would just go back to freaking banjo minnows and senkos at the pond. And we thought fly fishing was some, dark art, and none of us had ever caught a fish on a fly. And it seemed like totally unattainable when I met my father-in-law. So that's pretty cool.
I knew at call centers they had stuff going on. I spoke with someone yesterday and I was like, there's literally a party going on back there. You said a
Yeah,
Spanish
no
speaking
doubt.
call center? What were you doing if it's not too personal?
Yeah, no, it was funny because it was like, and I learned Spanish in Argentina, right? I
A
served
little
a church
different.
mission in Argentina. So, but I really took it to heart. I really tried to speak Spanish well. I tried to work on my accent, everything. So when I got back, I was able to get jobs speaking Spanish all day on the phone, and it was anti-piracy for Microsoft. So people would call in and they say, "Hey, somebody's hacking this or that," and you'd have to write a report, and it was super boring and dumb. And then shortly after that, 9/11 happened and I got laid off and I got hired to work for, wait, no, that was before that, way before. Goodness gracious. No, I worked at Marriott hotels, booking timeshare reservations in Spanish as well. And that's where, the Spanish really took off. And so I've always, even to this day, I can't get Spanish out of my brain. It's just like in there.
Are
So
you from
it's
like
pretty cool.
Latino heritage? I can't tell by looking at you.
No, I'm just my dad is from Vernal, Utah. My grandpa, his dad was from Texas. My mom's from San Leandro, California, and I'm the first person in my whole family who spoke Spanish. So it was pretty crazy.
Because with
It
Cheech
was
being
weird.
your nickname, do you remember the old school Cheech?
Well, that's where it came from, right? So my little brothers, I have five brothers, no sisters,
Ooh,
and I'm the second oldest. And so my little brothers pirated a copy of the old Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke, and they brought it home. And I was always trying to practice Spanish in the house because I took Spanish in school. And they said, "You sound like Cheech." And so that stuck with me. And I also have a little bit darker complexion than my other brothers. And so they would always tease that I came from a banana boat in Colombia. And who's laughing now? All right.
yeah.
So
I did wonder about that because I mean,
anyway,
it is
pretty cool.
Clark Cheech Pierce. It's like one
Clark.
of these things is
Yeah.
not like the other. Okay, now it's all clicking.
Right. So, but like all my nieces and nephews call me Uncle Cheech. My brothers call me Cheech. My wife calls me Cheech. And so if you call me Clark, it's usually because you pulled me over and you want to see my driver's license.
We will not be calling you
So
Clark here.
no, it's all good. You can if you want.
Now, as far as
Yeah. So
your career trajectory, then, so at the Marriott, is that when 9/11 happened and you found yourself unemployed?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So through working through Marriott though, I realized I was pretty good at like talking to people, and I actually was able to get into human resources at that point. I was a recruiter, a Spanish speaking recruiter, so I did job interviews in Spanish, and through that I was trained up in HR and stuff, and ended up working in HR for I did call centers. I did HR for a photography company here, like a children's photography company that was growing. Babies R Us. Put in a whole bunch of kitty candid stores. So I was corporate recruiter there. I was going all over. And then I worked an HR job for a mining company as well. And surprisingly, those dudes were the coolest to work with. Those dudes care about the environment so much, and I learned a lot working with those guys. It was pretty eye opening. Um, and I did HR for 20 years. I ended up getting a degree in human resource management, and so that's just what I did for 20 years. And I did like training and conflict resolution and all this stuff. So do HR in the shop still, but the training side of it, the presentation side of it really comes through in the fly tying tutorials where, you need to be presented with something. You need to show a fly, but like how many people have to break down how to teach it? Is this fly going to look so hard no one's going to want to try to tie it? Or can I break it down in easy enough steps to explain it? And so there's the challenge of my job right there. So anyway, HR kind of worked its way into fly fishing, and here we are.
But how? How did it, like, did you wake up one day and just
Yeah.
say, it's time? I really need to follow my dreams?
No, it wasn't like that. So Curtis and I are the partners here at Fly Fish Food, and we've been buddies for over 25 years. And he has kind of a similar story. He grew up in a small town. Neither of our parents were well off. We learned to work, and Curtis especially. He's Mr. Business. And just through tying flies, I had a heavy art influence. My dad was a florist, so and my mom was super into art. She was a hippie from the Bay Area, so I always had art around. So, soccer and art, and I did like sculpture and stuff. And then when I figured out that fly tying could be like an art, it was kind of like Spanish. It just came to me and it never left. And I like today, even the reason I was late to this is I'm in the middle of creating this crazy fly that I've never seen before. So Um, so fly tying just kind of got in my blood. And I was sitting at a show one time and it was crazy. They asked me to tie at a show and I had a bunch of flies in front of me and the rep from Rainey's Flies came by and was like, "Did you tie all these?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Like, they're like identical. Are you sure you did it? I said, "Yeah." Well, what is this fly called? So I kind of told them, and they asked me to submit a few flies. I gave them 9 patterns, and they took them all. So I was now a contracted fly tyer. That kind of grew. Curtis also was writing an article for the Salt Lake Tribune at the time on fly tying, and so we collaborated, a few times here and there on that. And then started a YouTube channel. So that's where it all started. So the fly fish food story really started when it was 2012, actually, or yeah. And Curtis called me. He's like, "Dude, the Salt Lake Tribune's gonna discontinue my column." He's like, "We need to start a YouTube channel, and we'll just do fly tying tutorials. And if anybody wants to see it, that's cool. But maybe we can charge some banner ads, so we can get some gas money. Maybe we can go on a few trips. Call it good." So we're like, "All right, cool." And so we did it. And I always wanted to. If I ever had a fly shop, I was going to call it Cheech's Fish Food. So we couldn't call it that because I didn't want the crazy ladies looking for freaking goldfish pellets. So we called it Fly Fish Food. And that week at church, I was not paying attention as normal, and I was kind of doodling, and I doodled our logo. So I just did it with a Sharpie, sent it to my brother. He digitized it that day. We created a logo. By the end of the day, we had a name and a logo. And so here we are with this adventure. But Curtis and I, we kept our jobs. We kept working. We powered through. We did fly fish food on the side for almost 8 years, and a lot of people don't know that. So
What was your, you
Curtis
were still in HR?
executive.
Your main job was
Yeah,
still
I
in
was
HR?
doing HR the whole thing. And sorry, I'm just rambling here,
No,
but
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
this is all the facts.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, then we started making these videos on YouTube, and we'd work our day jobs, and then we would film a few nights a week, and then we'd make these videos, and people would say, "Well, how do or where do I get the stuff to do that?" So we pulled $300 together. Mostly it was Curtis's $300, and made a hairline order and turned that into 600 and then to 1200 and so on and so forth. But we bootstrapped the whole deal. Like we didn't go to a bank. We didn't try to, quit our jobs and try to make it work. We said, if it's going to work, it's going to work, but we're not going to quit our jobs until we can reach this amount of revenue or whatever. And, we just did it. And Curtis quit his job in 2019. I quit mine in 2020. And here we are, with and through the whole time, we're just, it's cool because like a lot of fly shops, there's like an approval process to bring something in. And Curtis and I were just like, "All right, who wants to work with us? Let's go, let's bring it all in. We're going to show you how to use it." And we really didn't know if we had something or if we were going to run out of ideas by the time we got to, 3 years down the road, or we didn't know anything, but it just continued to grow. And I guess people liked the videos. So anyway, that's the story.
I've got so many questions. The brick and mortar side of
Yeah.
things, what year did that
Yeah.
start?
We got our first brick and mortar store in 2016. And it was 1,100 square feet for both warehouse and retail. And it was half and half. So we started buying a bunch of products, and we would pick out of Curtis's basement, and we would pull, and then it would get to the point where I'd have to drive down and I would help Curtis pick all the orders, and then I'd have to tie flies for orders, and it was just like never ending, right?
With a full-time
And
job at this point, because 2016, you're
oh
still
yeah,
working.
oh yeah, big time. We were crazy busy, yeah. So we grew out of the basement, and then we took over Curtis's garage, but we set it up like a legit warehouse, like warehouse shelving, warehouse processes, and that's Curtis's forte. So we built that out, and then in 2016 we rented our first spot, and we weren't even going to do a retail store at all. Every single rep that we had thought we were crazy, but what we had in our pocket is we already grew it. We don't need a single customer to come in the door because we're selling online too. And so it wasn't just like open the doors and people came running in. Like there were days where it's like you were looking at the cars pulling in. You're like, man, I hope they're coming in here. And so I'd work, 5 days a week at my job, and then I'd work Saturdays in the shop every single week. And it was awesome. I freaking loved it. And then, and my boss was the greatest. Like, shout out to Mr. Willie Finch. But I leveled with him. Like, he was trying to get me to do a bunch of HR training. And I said, bro, that HR is not in my long-term plans. This is the Cheech that you get right now. And that's as good as I'm going to get. But probably in about a year and a half, I'm probably going to be bouncing. And he worked with me to work 3 days a week. So I'd work 3 days a week there and 3 days a week in the shop. I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years. But yeah, that's sorry. What was the question?
No, just that I can't believe that you were able to maintain your job and the shop. So at this
yeah,
point, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I just remember, like, so 2016, we opened our first shop. We outgrew it in 6 months, and we signed a 5-year lease. So we started looking at other places, and we found another place that was perfect that we're in now, 4,000-ish square feet, and we just got it. And we paid double rent for 18 months, and it was the best decision we ever made. And now we occupy the whole building. So it's double the size of when we first got it. So we occupy the whole building. There are a few businesses next door that went out of business. And so now we have a giant warehouse that's next door. We have a big shop that has boats in it and waiters and boots. And so I don't even know, like 6,500 or 7,000 square feet of retail space right now.
Are you guys, wait, so are you guys, you're selling everything. Are you also selling guided trips?
No, we're not an outfitter, but we do have every single thing you could ever want to fish. So,
wow. Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that because people are going to call me on that. Yes, sometimes we don't have it all, but if we don't have it, you don't need it. No, but we have in our store, we have 40,000 SKUs that we sell.
Oh my goodness, that makes my head hurt.
Yeah, yeah, it should make your freaking head hurt because it makes many people's heads hurt.
At the time, you were definitely creating quite a reputation for yourself as a fly tyer. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, what do you think was your big break when it came to, I mean, at least public's opinion on your fly tying?
Well, I think that our business in general is, I think it's if you're an expert in something, it kind of also denotes that you're going to be kind of a jerk, right? And I just really try to dial in tying clean flies, and I told everybody, I'm like, I feel like I could create a brand new fly that's catalog worthy in a week, every week, because I just have so many ideas rattling around in my head. And so, there are a lot of people who can tie a really clean fly. That's fine. But where I think that my strength is in the creativity, because I can take, I've been messing with little rainbow trout resin head that are like gummy heads that are flexible and all this stuff. So the creativity is kind of where it is, but also, I was talking to Brigham. Brigham's my cameraman. He's one of my best buddies. He's a stud. You'll hear me rip on him all the time. But I say this that a lot of fly shops are secretive, right? They want to be secretive, but we want to take a collaborative approach. If we can help another fly shop sell better, then use our videos by all means. But it's all about always trying to be gaining information and always sharing, like always share. And I'm going to tell everybody my secret fly because you still have to figure out how to fish it, right? But that's kind of the thing. I don't think that we're any more special or different than any other shop out there. It's just, but we put a big effort in sharing, providing free education, and then just being nice and approachable when people want to talk to us. Lots and lots of people have questions on flies. We always try to answer, and so I don't think there was just a big bump. It was more just a consistency in being nice to people, trying to provide good customer service. And that's Grandma Burl from the Bay Area, right? All the grandkids, well, you ask any one of them, they say, what did Grandma Burl tell you when you left her house? She said, be good and kind. So that's the things, like, above all else, just be nice. It doesn't cost anything. It's easier to be nice than it is to be mean, and sometimes if you're decent at fly tying, maybe you'll have a YouTube channel if you're just nice.
But you have to also, it's not as easy as that. You need to be talented. You need to have a thick skin because
Yeah.
everyone has something to say, whether you're nice or not. You need to
Yeah.
have professional equipment and you need to actually bring something
Yeah.
to the table when it comes to education. You are one of my favorite tying guests that we've had on.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
I mean, and arguably the only person who literally made me, you can see it in the video, my whole jaw just
I
dropped.
saw it.
Like I had to take my hand and
You
put it
need to
back.
find that clip and put it in right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I will actually, I will. Yeah, I mean, just really, you bring everything to the table, especially from
Well, and
what
I
I've seen.
I will tell you this, like I'm going to steal a line. I met Paul Puckett at the Jackson Hole One Fly, and he's a super cool dude, just as chill as it gets. And anytime someone asks him, how long did it take you to paint that? He says 48 years. And I said, I'm going to steal that, Paul. I'm exactly your same age too. But that's the thing is, I mean, I put in time on the vise. I have so many hours on the vise, and like the way my brain works is it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning and I tied like a fly I thought was done, and I'd get up and I'd have to go downstairs and put something else on or I'd forget it. So fly tying to me just came this obsessive thing. And then, as you get going, you realize that, oh, I'm not as good as I think. I stand firmly in the camp of it doesn't matter how good you think you are at something, there's someone always better than you out there. And it
Mhm.
might be a 14-year-old kid. It might be an older guy that's been tying. So you have to be ready to learn when they're going to teach you. Right. And so that's kind of my thing, is trying to always be flexible in my learning, but also just really trying to push the envelope and fly tying, and really trying to do stuff that's weird and hasn't been done before. And I think there's still that stuff out there. And so, I work really hard at the Vice. It's cool. I love it. I love my time at the Vice, but it's also a process. I've got to make sure that, I go through the paces on materials and tools and all this stuff. So anyway, yeah, you're right. It is a lot of work. And I feel like I have good dexterity. I have good vision. I have, just like I'm saying, that the training element of it comes through way more. So not only that, but, tying a fly, at your own desk is different from, even when I'm tying flies on a video, the vise is maybe 8 inches further toward the camera than it normally would be. So my muscle memory is all off. I have lights facing this way, and I have Brigham, playing on his phone every 5 minutes or whatever. But it's quite a challenge to have that ready, set, go, and then pull it off on camera. So there's a wide range of skills that you have to work on, and you have to, like, I freaking have to talk to myself audibly in my car when I'm coming to work, or sing along to music, get your voice ready, or like do finger dexterity exercises. Like, so it's like, I don't know, there's a real process to it.
Yeah, so I'm happy you're mentioning this. I think it's overlooked by some. Let's talk about the flies. So movement,
Yeah.
especially when you're designing a fly, you can assume that you know what the movement's going to be like. And obviously, when you've tied enough, you can just go off of your last version, et cetera, et cetera. But with you, how do you make sure that your flies are going to move the way you want them to?
This is such an awesome question because I was just talking about this today. Someone said, why don't you do more game changers? And my answer is, no offense. I mean, it's just kind of not my cup of tea to do game changers. A lot of work to do a fly, but I like to build the movement into my flies with the materials and not necessarily the shanks, right? So there are certain flowy materials that work well together that if you tie them in like maybe even just like a two hooked shank or fly, it's going to swim and have that swimmy movement, right? And so movement is key, especially with streamers. I know you fish a lot of, streamer two handy stuff. And when you're throwing streamers, strip setting is absolutely critical. And if you're jerk stripping your line, you're not going to be ever in position to strip set, right? So just with normal straight on, strokes, you got to be able to build a fly that has movement that will dart on its own without jerking the rod all across, So movement's critical. I look at it all the time, and you're right. As soon as once you tie, you kind of know how stuff will move. But for example, today, here's my challenge with movement. I have a little fly that's like this big called a baby fat minnow. For those of you listening, my thumb and forefinger were approximately 1 3/4 inches apart. Okay, this big. And everybody, they say, well, why don't you tie that in a bigger size? Well, the answer is you can't really because you have to go all the way back to the drawing board to find different materials that aren't going to collapse when they get wet or different materials that are going to allow you to tie the length that you need. And so you can't just take a small fly and make it bigger. You have to go to the drawing boards, look what it's like in the water. How are you going to build that so that it doesn't collapse? All that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, movement's key. If you can make awesome, cool looking flies, but if you know movement, nobody's going to criticize your Instagram photos that you don't know how to fish. Just saying, there are some pros out there that tie a great looking fly that has no sense on ever touching water. But anyway, that's just me.
Well, that actually, and I've got questions for you about materials and movement, but I do want to
Yeah.
just build on that. As a shop owner and fly designer, how do you
Yeah.
feel about some of the commercial flies that are being sold nowadays in shops across the world?
Well, yeah, they're good flies, bad flies. I mean, I think that the commercial fly companies really have a good beat on, what if your fly doesn't sell, they'll discontinue it. Like Fulling Mill discontinues my stuff every once in a while, and there's nothing I can do about it. But I don't know. I think that fly pattern wise, from the commercial side, the quality is getting really, really good. We buy flies from everybody, and it seems like if you're going to play in that game, you have to tie really good flies.
Especially now.
So yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just saying, especially now. I remember 20 years ago going into British Columbia fly shops and the garbage that they would sell, the overdressed, just tacky
Oh
stuff
yeah,
that looked good. It's almost like the customer wanted to see something that was, worth at the time $6 a fly. But I will
sure.
say nowadays, especially with the introduction of more tires and more companies, I do feel like the quality has definitely advanced.
Yeah, I think like I got to give a shout out to the guys at Fulling Mill, right? When I send them samples and they send them back, I'm like, why'd they just send me my flies back? And they're like, no, these are the dudes. We have a
Oh,
cool relationship though. So when they take a fly of mine, their tyer gets to watch my video on how to tie it, right? So there's no mystery on doing it the wrong way. So with video now, like most of the flies that are going to a factory or getting submitted should have a video at least on YouTube. And that way the tyers are in such good contact with exactly how to tie them. It doesn't mean that they always follow that. And there are always little tweaks here and there. And that's just the nature of the fly business, doing them overseas, but fulling mill, top notch. Montana fly, their deer hair heads are some of the best I've ever seen. Umpqua, I mean, top to bottom, maybe the most comprehensive collection, and they're all good friends. I contact them all the time. We talk a lot. Even though I'm a fulling mill contract tyer, we work with everybody. So it's pretty cool to see. Everybody's got to get better, because if one company raises the bar, all of them have to.
I feel like that's what happened with us in Canada. I think it was Blacks. Maybe is Black still in business?
I don't know.
But I remember they kind of upped the game, and then everyone seemed to follow. It might be different in the
Yeah,
States, but I have material questions. So as you've mentioned a couple
sure.
times, materials collapsing, and I have a very similar opinion as you. I prefer to have my materials do the work, especially because with
Uh-huh.
my sort of fishing, I'm not doing a whole lot of articulated stuff.
Right.
But
Yeah.
collapsing materials, is there a material that you really love? But you find it collapses? And if so, do you do any sort of propping? Like, do you have a propping material?
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot with SF fibers.
Who's SF?
So SF is Steve Farrar, and it's just like a bunch of stuff, kind of like EP fibers,
Yeah, okay.
but maybe a more of a consistency of like bucktail. But essentially, it's kind of a semi-crinkly fiber that if you tie it in like a standard, just tie it in the front and lay it over the back, it's not going to have a lot of bulk, and it's going to just stay slim, right? So to keep it from collapsing, you can do a reverse tie, right? So you tie it in facing forward, fold it over back, put a little prop in front of it, and that's a way to kind of keep bulk on a material that may collapse. But I think like to your point, like if you wanted to make a little prop, marabou is one that collapses like crazy, right?
You scared
So
me. I thought you were going to say
you
marabou as a
can.
prop. And I was going to say, well,
Oh, no, 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 no. The other thing that I will do, I have a fly called the drunk drea that
okay.
uses a compound loop. One of my favorite flies ever. And the prop is built into the loop. So I do it Jerry French style. Shout out to him, So I build it on the table. And if you build one of those with marabou and like polar fiber and a little bit of ice dub built in, your prop is built into the brush. And
Hmm.
that way you just wrap it up, and it has like that nice, like that one will slick down, but as soon as you pause it, it opens up way better. So I think that's kind of something that's cool too. So yeah, lots of different ways, but collapsing materials need a little encouragement to stay up. Yeah.
They do. The SF stuff, is that what you had in the rainbow pattern? The original fly that you showed
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you another fly. So this one is SF. It's got a rainbow head.
I love that.
It's got 4 5.5 mil tungsten beads in it. It's a resin head, but it's squishy. I can mold it. It can move all around. It has good hook gap. And this is a 3 material fly. It's really not a lot of work to it. So there's that. I'm going to have to send you some pictures so you can show your viewers. But here's a golden dorado.
Does it tangle? Does that stuff
And
tangle or not?
no, it. The flash tail clouser. Have you fished that one?
I know it. I don't know if I fished it.
That's like a staple in the bay for what you call it for it's a staple in the bay for stripers, right? And so like in the San Francisco Bay, we went and fished the Delta with our Sage rep, and we fished flashtail clousers. And so I came home and I started trying to tie some of those, but my brain wouldn't let me do the head the way that it's on the fly. So I just started wrapping brushes and using resin, and then this is what we ended up with. So like here's another rainbow trout where it's really realistic in the front, all movement in the back, right? Squishy, moves around. So I'm on a mad dash to try to get this fly dialed in. I have like 2 guys out there testing them right now, but yeah, SF fibers are what are used to taper that. Or you're the latest victim of the show and tell, but I've been forcing all the customers to look at it. Here's a little baby brown trout.
Oh, these are really good.
They're cool. I'm really happy with this one. So that's what I'm saying is like this is a fly that's like making me lose sleep. And by the time it comes out, this will have a name and it will have a video too. But this is like 5 days in. That's how far I got. So this is kind of the coolest one that I've done. And it started out like this 5 days ago.
Got it. Okay,
So
I'm seeing the evolution. Now, what are you using these for? What species are you targeting?
well, the guys that I have fishing them right now are fishing them for trout. So guy went out, he sent me a video or two pictures of giant, like 20 plus inch fish. He was frantic. He needed more. So he came and I gave him a few more today. So trout, bass, striped bass. We're going to go to Jersey to the symposium and I'm going to tie some to throw there. So super versatile fly. Here's a bluegill one.
These look great. What's with
So,
the hook choice there?
that's kind of the flash tail clouser style. This is a jig hook, so this is really aggressively going to keel properly. So these kind of have the same idea, but it's a jig hook, and it has beads lashed to the outside of the hook shank to make it keel perfectly every single time. So,
Gotcha.
but you
'Cause
could tie it on a down hook as well. But
I caught what you said earlier about your head getting wrapped around, like your actual head getting wrapped around the head of a clouser. And I caught that because I don't think you have a hard time getting your head wrapped around anything, but I think you're too much of a gentleman to say you don't like it. So
yeah,
I'll do it for you.
that's the
What's the
thing is
story?
well, so here's the thing. Like you take a fly like this, right? Here's a fly. This is a cool little rainbow trout, but it has to look like that at the front, right? So a trout, sorry, for the viewers, I'm showing her a cool fly. You're gonna have
It's
to
very
find a way
cool.
to make this work. Maybe. But anyway, the flash tail clouser or a clouser, I don't hate them at all, but it's just that so there's something inside me that tells me that I can build a better head on a bait fish than just putting a barbell eye, because a barbell eye on the fly just kind of makes it buggy and wide from the get go. When the front of a minnow is very thin, and so by I actually got all the stuff to tie it. I was really tying a flash tail clouser, and I got to the part where the barbell eye was, and I just took them off and I put the little beads on and I started wrapping a craft fur brush around just to see. And then that's how it all happened. So, sometimes I'll start with a fly like that and it just doesn't have legs and I'll just scrap it. But this one turned into like a full force production of as many species as I could get done. So, but that's kind of it. It's the flash tail clouser is a phenomenal fly. Great fly. That's why I'm kind of using the idea there. And I will tie some because they work, but it's just kind of the catalyst for this new project that I've been on for the last week.
What are your thoughts on
So
eyes on flies? Like to look
that's a good one
realistic.
too, because I think if you have eyes on your flies, you need to really put a lot of attention to make sure that your fly is going to swim properly, right? If your fly is swimming and it twists even slightly as you're pulling it, there are a lot of fish that don't like that. And so if you have eyes on your fly, it's easier for the fish to tell if your fly is not swimming right. But if you tie it in the round, like just a fly with no eyes on it, just a kind of a blob, the fish crush it as well. Um, I have eyes on flies when I'm fishing for real picky fish, maybe something that needs a little bit of extra encouragement to eat your fly. But I also fish a ton of flies without eyes. Like the drunk Drea fly that I just told you about is tied in the round. It looks the same top, bottom, left, right. There's nothing different about it. And it's one of my most effective streamers in the whole world. I'll fish a little super realistic baby fat minnow next to it, and it works great too. But sometimes eyes can be good if you have a bunch of picky fish, but make sure that you keel it properly, or else it's going to look ski wampus to the fish.
Skew wampus.
There, that's what I think.
Well, how important is color?
Color's important. I think that it's more important than, not caring about it at all. It's not as important as the recipe guys coming in the shop wanting, brown olive number 297 that herders came out with in 1947, and the fish only eat that, right? No, I think color is important. Like, you wouldn't want to throw a bright PMD or light Cahill during a blue winged olive hatch. It just probably wouldn't be the best idea. That said, if you give a very good angler the PMD fly and you give a bad angler the blue winged olive, the good angler is always going to catch more fish. So I think color is important, but presentation probably always trumps that.
What are your thoughts on steelhead flies or flies in general that we swing? Because it feels like sometimes we can literally throw anything on and a fish will take.
Yeah, and so that's the thing though, is like you're swinging. Obviously, if you needed to catch steelhead to eat, you would change your methods, right? Swinging flies is, there's like a certain romance of like casting a two-handed rod, and I'm not good at it. I have some appointments later this fall to work on that, but it's one of those things where, yeah, that's part of the allure. Like, you're not going to have many opportunities to get a fish to eat it. And so, just throw whatever you want. That's part of the cool part about trout fishing too, is like throwing a tractor. Yeah, they'll eat it if you have good presentation. The reason the steelhead's eating that fly isn't because the fly is tied perfectly, or you have the right number of Amherst fibers on each side, or that the color of wire was proper, right? That fish is eating it because you put it in front of its face, right? That's kind of like Euro nymphing too. It's like, how can I catch fish on a mop fly during a Baetis hatch? It's because the presentation's superior. I'm putting it right in front of its face, right? So I think that's kind of the deal.
Does that go? Does
But
the same go for trout when you're stripping?
Well, I think that not. I think that you have to learn patterns with any fish, right? So, I've got my favorite colors of streamers. I know that they're going to eat one of five colors or something like that, right? So, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have those streamers, and I know that I'm going to do well catching fish. But if I know that this is a sculpin rich river, I'm not going to go with a purple, woolly bugger and try to catch fish. I probably will, but I think that being in the industry, or trying to be like a professional in this world, isn't just the status quo. Like, I'm going to go catch a fish. Like, I'm going to go catch them all. I'm going to make the fly that I can catch, 16 out of that hole that I caught 4 out of, because, fish are dumb. They'll eat lots of stuff, but to catch lots and lots of fish, that's where it is, and it's kind of like, you talk to customers when they come in, they say, I'm crushing it. It's like, what does that mean? What's a good day to you? If 2 fish is a good day, freaking keep doing it, man. But if you want to catch more fish, you can. So anyway, that's part of it.
What about movement or presentation? How much of the presentation is dependent on rod tip or a cadence?
Oh yeah. So presentation is the most important part, right? So with streamers, with any fly, we have guys come in all the time and they say, well, what are the fish eating? And you're giving this smart aleck answer, the good presentation. No, but really, I say, it's an 80-20 thing. 80% is presentation and 20% is having the right fly, right? So if you know how to work the fly, you're going to have so much more chances to catch fish versus someone who doesn't know how to mend, or to strip, or to cast, or to, all that kind of stuff. It's so critical, and when you're talking to guys about using the right, fly line with the right rod, with the right leader, with the right knots, like, everything matters. And so you hear people say, well, I don't want to fish a fly that small, or I don't want to fish leader that big, or I don't want to tie my leader that long. I always just say, well, science doesn't care about your feelings. Science is what it is. And that's how those fish live. And if you can match that with science, like using thinner tippet so it cuts through, there's physics right there, biting you right in the face. So science doesn't care about your feelings. you have to fall in line. And that's all about presentation, getting it to look just like a bug going through the water. And that this is about the time where they roll their eyes at me and say, this dude's had too many of these conversations. So
But the fly
anyway,
that you just showed me, what about that one? Would you use a loop knot with that? What would be for you? What is the perfect presentation for that particular fly? And what are we calling that fly? Does it have a name yet?
I don't have a name for it yet. So I got to think of a name, but I might have to name it after my dog or something. But I don't have a name yet. But
This
the
podcast is
way that
going up soon. I mean, if, just so you know, the
okay,
comments could be
okay,
flooded with people giving you name ideas. Heads up.
okay, all right. So that's cool. Yeah, and if it is, yeah, if you have a good name for this, comment. And the way to see this fly a little bit better, I think I've posted a few of them on my Instagram at I am Uncle Cheech or at Flyfish Food, but it does need a good name. That said, this is a very versatile fly. So it's tied on a jig hook, which means that I can tight line this and just kind of drop it in a hole and keep my leader tight and kind of bounce it along the bottom. I can also make a super long cast and I can strip it. The other thing is I can tie, 7 or 8 of these all the same size and differentiate the color of thread so that I know that some of them are light, medium, and heavyweight. So I can cast one. If I have a really lightweight one, I can strip it fast and it's going to dance and dart all around just because of the way that the head is shaped, right? Or if I want to slow down and just kind of drag it, literally pull it on the bottom, it will stay keeled. Because this thing has, I think, 4 millimeter tungsten beads along the belly. So, yeah, this is a versatile fly, and that's another thing as a designer. Like, are you building a fly that has more than just one application? Can it be used in multiple techniques at different places? Can it be modified for different species? All that kind of stuff. But I'm going to tie some of these for a guy going for redfish. I'm going to do some for largemouth, striped bass, all of it. But yeah, it's got me by the ears right now.
I love this. You mentioned the knots, and I'm going to come back to that because I think that's something that is so overlooked. Do you have
Right.
some sort of philosophy on when to use a loop knot or a turl or et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that fly fishing, everybody, there's this thought process that you have to know all the knots, and you don't. Like, I conventional angle. When you're conventionally angling for bass and you're setting the hook with 50-pound braid and you have a 20-pound leader on the front of that, you better hope that your knots are good, right? And that's the area where you really have to look into like different knots or like big predators, right? You've fished for those types of fish. Um, are you going to have a lot of like strength on the hook set? Like, are you going to set hard, or is it more of a light set? But bass fishing wise, I'm Mr. Knot. I know like 8 or 9 knots I use all the time on that world. But on fly fishing, people really don't think about how little pressure we put on the hook when we set a hook, like a trout, right? A trout set is like a pound of pressure if you're lucky, right? And so I'm a firm believer in trout setting. If I'm tying on just something that doesn't need a loop, I'm just going to use a clinch knot. No improved clinch, just a plain old clinch knot. The Davy knot, sure, it's good, but I can tie a clinch knot in under 2 seconds. Like, it's just the way that it is, right? So clinch knot. And my advice to people is if you're sitting at a desk job, always have a spool of tippet, because who knows, maybe as I'm sitting here talking to April, I'm practicing my knots, right? How many people are on Zoom calls? Just sit there and practice your knots while you're mindlessly listening to the stupid benefits coordinator again. Frig off already. We don't want your stupid benefits, right? So learn knots. And so for fly fishing, I think that, you need to know a perfection loop, because that's what's going to go onto your loop end of your fly line. You have to know a triple surgeon's knot, because with the triple surgeon's knot, you can link up most sizes of tippet. You can rig your tag rigs for Czech nymphing or Euro nymphing, whatever you call it these days, all that stuff. So Perfection loop, triple surgeons, clinch knot. That's all you need to know. You might need to throw a blood knot in there, but as a beginning angler that's going to start fishing like a technical river like we have in Provo, I just tell people, yeah, you're the way forward for you is to practice knots, because if you're not blowing this up, if you're not snagging it on the bottom, you're not fishing in the right spots. And if it's so intimidating that you can't tie knots, you have to go sit down and take your vest off and get pissed off just to tie a knot, you're doing it wrong, right? So learn to tie knots quickly, keep it simple. But I think everybody has their faith knot. Like, people are going to come in and try to tell me to tie the Davy knot because of this, this, and this, and this. It's like, okay, you can use it. Freak if I care. I have what works for me. And if you ask me, that's what I'm going to tell you. But if you want to do it a different way, cool. But at the end of the day, clinch, triple surgeons, and then a perfections loop.
Okay. I like it. I've got a personal question. As far as
Yeah,
head materials go, I used to really enjoy trying to make those kind of funky, natural looking heads like you've got. But I'm from epoxy days. I remember when they first started coming out with the resin with the light, and it was all just too
right.
finicky for me. Is it still like that? What do you use?
This is all UV resin, and it is finicky for sure, right? The thing about it is you have to know what it's good at and what it's not good at, right? So this is a craft fur brush, and if you just soak it with resin, it just turns into like this little tube of plastic, right? And so the idea with this is they're all different viscosities in UV resin, from very thin to very thick and even flexible resin. So looking at the toolkit that I was given, I basically take a very thin coat of thick resin, and I brush it over the craft fur brush, and I form the head however I want it. And then once the head's formed, I cure it with the light, and it's a really thin coat. And then I put a thick coating of flexible resin over the top of that and cure it.
Oh,
So then when I squish the head, it breaks out kind of the thick resin underneath. It just cracks out, but you don't even know. It's just holding a temporary shape. So I tell you that just to tell you, yeah, you're right. It's finicky, but you just kind of have to know the different resins. Some of them are tacky, some of them are not. You have to have the right light. It's all about having a powerful light. But my best results have come with Solares. So it's a company that's been around for a long time. There's no tack on it. So that's what I built these with. Anyway,
how long does it
not
take to do
I'm not
that?
even on there. What's that?
Pro staff,
No,
they need to
no
bring you
way.
on.
I just like it. It's good stuff.
Does it take a while to do?
Um, the creation process is kind of long, but I have a few of the sizes dialed, and I can do one of these in about 10 or 12 minutes, because it's really a simple fly. And that's another thing, is as a fly designer, you need to have just the right amount of simplicity to your flies. I used to do way more complicated patterns, but anymore I just try to keep it as simple as possible. So this fly that you see right here just has flash, SF fibers, and a craft fur brush. That's it. There's three materials.
And the
And so
tungsten
all the
beads in
work,
there.
yeah, tungsten beads too, but all the work comes in just like building the head, and that just comes with a little bit of time, but it's not crazy long.
And then what,
It
just
takes
Sharpie?
48 years to tie one.
Yeah, how long does it take? 48 years. Do you just use
Yeah.
Sharpie to do all the bits? All the dots?
Yeah, so I have a variety of markers. I use like Prismacolors, Chart Packs, Marquee, or Chart Sharpies, or whatever I've got, just whatever color looks good. And my daughters are little artists, so they always have the little alcohol markers, and I steal them because I buy them for Christmas, so I should be able to take them whenever I want. So
Yeah, I love it. Now back to
yeah.
you personally. So has there been any major obstacle so far in your career path?
There nothing's easy, right? It's a lot of just like keeping yourselves accountable. Like Curtis and I are business partners. Sometimes when you have two people running the show, you keep each other accountable, right? But as far as obstacles, I mean, it's, you know, there are always obstacles in retail stuff and, you know, in running a business, but we've been very, very fortunate. Like, I'll put my staff up against any shop. You know, they're not that there's a competition. There's not, but my shop, my employees are amazing. Like they get it done. On my staff, I think we have 8 contracted fly tires that have patterns in magazines or in catalogs. So that's really critical to us to keep that culture alive. You know, where if you come and shop at my shop, you're going to talk to an expert. You know, you're going to talk to somebody who knows what the freak they're talking about, and we're going to try to make your angler experience better, whether it's through tying or fishing. But that's what it is. Just be nice and do the old angler experience. Give them the best stuff for what they need at the time. You know, but
Are you struggling
yeah,
with inspiration yet? Do you know what you're going to do with yourself if you kind of hit a wall at some point? Because I don't know what the fly tying equivalent is of writer's block, but I know it happens.
yeah. And so the answer there is when you have tires block, you go fish. And every single time you're like, okay, this is what I need to do, right? One of the coolest ones was I was working on a green drake, and you can look it up. It's called a Medusa green drake. But I was kind of tying flies, you know, kind of with the ranch in mind or some of the technical waters, and you know, the inspiration of just using natural materials, and I ended up like making a little New Zealand style indicator out of the wing, so it floats really high. But there was just a lot of thought process that went into that one. It was super rewarding when it came out, and it just crushed. I mean, it just caught a ton of fish. So, um, yeah, what was I talking about on that one? You're gonna have to edit this one.
Tires block. That's all
Oh
right.
yeah, tired out. See, I get speakers block. No, but I don't think for me that exists really. We It's been 13 years of weekly fly tying tutorials. And I have a list of flies that that I still need to do. You know, I just sitting here on this table, I could do 8 different videos on how to tie all these different ways. And so no, that I always can come up with something like iron fly. That's my jam. Like, give me a bunch of materials. Tell me that I need to tie this. Um, and then the other thing is like, I have a lot of ideas from other people too. Like, I have a good buddy, old Jared Tyer. He's my dentist, and we hired his son to work at our shop in Idaho, and he's awesome. But anyway, super close friend. And he said, "Hey, all the salmon flies here in Idaho, or all the salmon flies pretty much in trout fishing, are foam." And he said, I don't want like a stimulator, but he's like, I want like a natural material salmon fly. And so I did one out of mostly CDC, and the profile was awesome and everything. And it ended up, it's actually in the catalog now. It's called the Libby's Stone. And so it was all CDC, great big salmon fly, and the profile was amazing, and it just crushed fish. And so I would have never thought of that, you know. I would have never thought that a CDC salmon fly was a thing. And now it's like it's in the catalog. And Libby is his daughter, so I named it after his little girl who watches
Got
the
it.
videos. And shout out to Libby for the idea there. Um, but anyway, yeah. So that's part of it. Is like someone will say, "Hey, I need a streamer that's really small that can sink really fast." Um, this whole bead harness thing came from an inspiration from old Brian Gregson. You probably know Brian, but
Yeah.
Brian's a good buddy of ours, you
What
know,
did he do to
and he was
inspire
going to
that?
Patagonia. What's
Oh,
that?
what did he do to inspire that?
Yeah, so he was going to Patagonia, and he needed a fly that was really small in profile that would sink down to the really deep holes. And sometimes the holes weren't very long. So it's just like, I need the fly to get down right now. And so, you know, I came up with this really small bait fish pattern that had the beads on the bottom. So I tied a fly called the belly scratcher minnow, and it has beads on the belly of it. And that it's the same concept as this one that I have now. But it was kind of the firstling of that idea. He took it down there and sent me these pictures of just obese rookies. And so I'm like, this is way cool. That works. So that system kind of made it into my main rotation. And you can put crazy amount of weight on a tiny little fly, but it was through that challenge. She's like, I bet you can't do this. And I say, okay, and I have a fly shop underneath my desk with 40,000 things in it. I'm going to find a way to make it work. So that the inspiration I could go to my desk right now and just someone would say, all right, do some cicadas. And I'm like, okay, cicada mode, boom. I know I'd just go nuts. So I don't struggle with that.
I would love to watch like a monthly video with a challenge. If somebody were to
Yeah,
challenge you monthly, I think that would be a hit. I'd really enjoy that.
that would be funny. I'll go talk to our marketing team. And shout out to them too. Like I talk about Brigham, but his wife's our project manager, right? So I'll be able to go to her with an idea like this, and she'll put it in our system and make sure that I'm on my task to make sure it
Oh, I
happens.
love this. I love organized systems. So,
Yeah,
okay, where can
no,
people
it's
find you
great.
again? We'll start to wrap it up. You've got a
Yeah,
big fly to tie, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably getting late. But where can people find you? Just the shameless plug here.
Yeah, shameless plug. My name's Cheech, 6'5", 285, goalkeeper. No, where our shop is in Orem, Utah. We also have a shop in Idaho Falls, Idaho, formerly Jimmy's All Seasons Angler. Amazing shop with an amazing staff up there. If you go to any of our shops, you're going to talk to people who know what they're doing, and we'll get you dialed up. But flyfishfood.com. And then also on our website, you'll see something called School. We didn't talk about this, but SKOOL. And what we've done is we've created a sequential learning system for fly fishing and fly tying. So you can start from not knowing anything and not have to wade through all the YouTube videos. We have organized it from the bottom up.
Oh,
So
perfect.
that's a big thing for us. We have a big YouTube channel, and my Instagrams. I am Uncle Cheech, and I need some followers because I'm trying to get more followers than my wife, and so that would be much appreciated.
We'll work on that. Well, it's just been an absolute pleasure watching you. I think that you really breathe new life into the industry. I know that sounds awful, but yeah, it's been refreshing to watch you.
Well, thanks. We like to have fun, and we don't fly fish to be stressed out. We don't tie flies to be stressed out. This is a fun hobby, so it should be fun. We try to portray that through our videos. Like I tell our guys, like we didn't get the way that we are right now because we're vanilla. We're a bunch of F ups. We
Who
no,
wants
not
vanilla?
really that, but it's like
Sorry.
we you can't take yourself too seriously in this industry because
True.
at the end of the day, if you can't catch a fish, it has like the brain the size of a pea, and you're literally a human. So how serious you got to take yourself?
It's been a pleasure to get to know you better, albeit briefly. Hopefully, we get to run into each other in person. We've not met in person yet, right?
I don't think so. I think that, in how the show circuits are where you're always just running around and stuff. So and historically we haven't done a lot of expos, but Brigham and I did a fun thing at the Denver show where we kind of went and jokingly interviewed everybody just to see what we could get away with, and we can get away with pretty much everything there.
Did
So
you air that?
anyway,
I'd love to see that.
yeah, we did a bunch of Instagram stories. I think we have like a timeline on either mine or on the Fly Fish Food of all the joke stories, but like walking up to people who are very well known in the industry and just clowning them a little bit. So no, but like if you're around, we for sure should chat. Absolutely.
Deal. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Please don't be a stranger.